YouTuber? What is your name? Chris Pussy Warriors.
What it do, E-World? Crisscross and wires, and man, I just came outside to go to the vape shop, get some vape juice, and gonna head right on back inside, man, because I got a lot of work to do. But in the meantime, I'm going to talk about, man, I feel like I'm being very repetitive on a lot of things, man, and I know I am. And honestly, I feel like what I'm going to have to do is start all over from the beginning. Start a whole new DIY education channel from scratch, because I started out this journey about 2 years ago, and although we're still itty bitty, we have grown a little bit, and a lot of guys are newcomers to my channel. So you know, they just coming in at the last minute. So on that note, you know, they haven't really seen what's been happening here from, you know, early stages of this channel till now. But I started this channel about 2 years ago, and we have moved extremely fast in that 2 years. I mean, you know, from just getting into e-bikes to, you know, now we full-fledged building batteries and all kinds of shit. But the only reason that is, or I'm able to do that, is because of my previous background in electronics. Now, not just that, just, you know, being a handyman, guy that was always able to do stuff with my hands, build stuff and make stuff. And you know, a lot of that is in your DNA, honestly. If your grandfather was a good craftsman, your dad was a craftsman, most likely you have skills. And then there's just some guys that are very intelligent and can see something, and you know, if their hands are good enough, they can repeat what they see and duplicate it. And you know, if they have the understanding of it, a lot of guys can hit the ground running. But that's not everybody. Everybody has their own skill sets, you know. Some guys are artists, you know. Some guys are cooks and chefs, and some guys are athletes, you know. Everybody got their own shit. But you can't just jump into a field that you know nothing about if you don't have any of those qualifications. I mean, natural born qualifications, like those gifts that God grants you when you're born, you know. And that's just the facts of it all. Now, some people take it the wrong way when I say certain things, you know, and it hits different. But you know, I'm never trying to hurt nobody's feelings. My thing is to just be honest and truthful, and ain't no need in sugarcoating shit and, you know, tricking people and telling them this is that and that and this, and that shit ain't true, and they're never gonna be able to achieve it. So I used to always say that man, the best way to do something, or, you know, do it economically, is to do it yourself. And I still stand by that. However, you still got to have those traits that I mentioned in order to accomplish that. Now, there are some guys that, you know, have a basic understanding and are able to learn certain things when it comes to this stuff, and, you know, mentally they get it for the most part. But when it comes to doing it, you know, with the hands, they're all thumbs. Just like you got people that are educated, man, book smart. I mean, super duper book smart, genius level, but ain't got no damn common sense. Can't do basic shit. That's straight up facts too. And then, like I said, you got guys that have that genius book smart, the theory, and can tell you how to, you know, do all types of formulas and equations, and can solve problems mathematically. But if you ask them to make something with their hands, man, they can't do it. They all thumbs, like I said, man. So, you know, when you're gifted with both of those, man, you good to go. But that's not everybody. So there's some guys, man, that just because they get it, just because they were able to accomplish it and fumble their way through it for themselves, and that's great, should not be trying to do it for others. Just because you was able to do something for yourself and like I say, fumbled your way through it, and nobody's gonna take away props from you for that, that don't mean that you do it well enough that you can charge people for it. And that's a lot of DIY guys, man. They, you know, everybody thinks just because they was able to do something on their own, and they're quite proud of themselves, and they accomplished and achieved something, that's outstanding. But in order for you to do it for other people and charge for it, man, you really got to know your shit. And be able to do just that. And some of y'all, man, don't need to be doing it. I'm just being real. Just like me, man, I don't ever try to act like I can you know, make a gourmet cake or some shit like that. Even though I feel like if I wanted to learn how to do some shit like that, I could. But if you ask me to just do it now, hell no, that shit's gonna be, it ain't gonna be gourmet. I damn sure can't charge for it. Alright, so that being said, leads back to something I always talk about all the time. And the reason why I'm mentioning that is because it just doesn't pertain to parts, components, and equipment, it also pertains to labor. All right, I tell y'all time and time again, you're always going to get what you pay for when it comes to this electronic stuff, man, and mechanical. That's just straight up facts. There's nothing you can do about that. This is the way the world is, and you're not going to get the same quality of component for cheap as you would for something that has all premium, best materials, and made with the best methods, by the best machinery, by the best people. It's just not going to be. And same thing when it comes to labor, man. It's the same thing. You're going to get what you pay for. If you get Bernie down the street to hook your bike up, and yeah, Bernie did a good job at hooking his bike up, and his bike goes fast and blah blah blah, and it looks great to you. But if we were to open up Bernie's bike on the inside and take a professional look at what Bernie did, that shit looks like who does what, when, where, and why. It works. Don't get me wrong, it works. But Bernie shouldn't be charging nobody to do nothing. Bernie needs to stick with doing his shit, and that's just what it is. Alright? Now, if I felt like I was Bernie, trust me, I wouldn't even be out here talking those shit. But I know what I'm qualified to do and capable of. And that's only because I just haven't done it for myself. I've done it professionally for other people in other areas, which is all pretty much the same field as far as electronics and shit like that. So yeah, man, I know that my craftsmanship is on a level that's you know, top tier. And hey, yeah, that's my bragging rights. Like I said, it's other shit I can't do, but this shit here, this is what I do. Now let me talk about something that I've been seeing, well, that I've had. You know, I always discuss things that pretty much I'm talking about to somebody, you know, as days go by, a problem that someone may have had, and I use that as, you know, topics of discussion. Now lately I've been talking to someone, and that person, man, don't feel like I'm you know, trying to down you in any kind of way, man. I appreciate these topics that I can discuss, because it helps me help other people with the same issues. Now, some people don't understand that DC line amps, the amps that feed your controller, the power going into your controller, and the phase amps coming out are two different things. You know, the DC line amps, like I said, that's your DC amps going into your controller, that your controller, the MOSFETs and circuitry inside needs to make power, and then that power is being transferred to your motor via the phase wires, and those amps going through the phase wires are your phase amps. Now, just because like this motor I have on here, it's a 3,000 watt stock motor, and people want to know how am I running 18 kilowatts on a stock motor and it's not burning up. That's because I'm not exceeding the amount of amps, you know, phase amps that can go to this motor. Now, just because I increased the phase wires, made them big, and to handle lots of amps doesn't mean that I'm going to shoot a lot of amps to this motor, because it's still a 3 kilowatt motor at the end of the day. It can't exceed the power rating that it can produce based on the size of the stator and the earth magnets that are in it. Those can be oversaturated and stop making power at a certain point, so there is a point of diminishing return. However, I do those things as far as larger gauge phase wires and stuff like that. A lot of times is just to get a lower resistance, because not only does that allow more current flow, it just maximizes efficiency by having lower resistance. So, you know, I don't always do it just so I can pass a lot of big power. But anyway, back to these phase amps. All right, there are not too many motors that can handle a high amount of phase amps. And when I'm talking high amount, I mean 1200, 1400, 1800, 2000 phase amps. That is a lot of phase amps, man. A lot of phase amps. Okay, now just because just because you can make that power, you got enough DC line amps and you got a big enough controller that can do it, and you think you have you know, made your phase wires extra large and they can handle that power. Like I said, that don't mean the motor can handle that, and that still don't even mean those phase wires can handle that. Man, if you were to look at a motor that can handle 1800 phase amps, I assure you it's made a whole lot different. It's not a single set of 8 gauge or 10 gauge or 6 gauge phase wires going to it. Man, those motors like that have dual 4 gauge or dual 6 gauge phase wires. Huge, humongous wires. All right, then the coils that they attach to inside the motor, man, they're just as heavy a gauge as the phase wires. So, you know, just because you got huge 2 gauge phase wires, if they're going to 16 gauge coil wires, that means you can burn them up. Like I said, sometimes I do that for less resistance. That's for better efficiency. That don't mean shove a ton of power through there. But anyway, man, you know, like I said, I gotta start over from scratch, get back to the basics, start from day one and work my way out. Another thing I want to discuss and talk about, yeah, and I ride around in circles when I'm just talking about shit. That's what I do. But something else I want to talk about, when you guys buying batteries, man, I said it before, some of you guys are just focusing on the voltage that you need and a large capacity because obviously you want good range. But there's a third spec you need in terms of, you know, trying to output a lot of power, and that's the discharge amps of a pack. I told you guys before, you can have two 72 volt 100 amp hour, let's say 100 amp hour, super large battery in terms of capacity. But as far as how much power it can discharge, you know, one might be able to discharge 40 watts and the other might be able to discharge 400. I mean 40 amps, and the other might be able to discharge 400 amps. It's two different things.